Thank you. All right. So first up is, hopefully you've all had a chance to review the April 10th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? Bill motions. Can I have a second? Warren is number 2. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed. Okay, Scott provided his report. Anyone have any questions for Scott? I have 2 because I didn't want you to feel bad.
Perfectly okay.
But I always want to give everybody else a chance.
Hands first. Yep.
Everybody else have any? So obviously we're coming up towards the end of your contract. There's 2 things that seem like they're ongoing. One is Club Street.
Yep.
So when you're done with your contract, will Tim White be totally?
Tim's pretty much totally doing it now. He's sending them to me to review each week.
Okay.
He's sending me the submissions to EOS before he sends them to review and make sure that I think.
But that should be wrapped up.
Tim's doing fine with it.
Okay.
You should be able to do it. He's just sending them to me to maybe get a second set of eyes on it. Make
Yeah,
sure.
I want to make sure if there's any
Yep.
hangover that we understand
No,
that there's a
Tim-
hangover.
Tim will continue to do that.
Okay, and then Tibbetts Point is, where
Tibbetts
are we on
Point
Tibbetts?
is, I'm really just assisting BCNA is doing pretty much the paperwork. So I've been giving Mike Altieri from BCNA the documents he needs and helping him with Sunshine, but BC kind of transitioned that to BCNA too, because they were the engineers on it. So.
All right, so nothing really then, because those were the only 2 that looked
Yep.
like they might have a hangout.
Yep.
Obviously, we'll know about the most recent grant about the cover in the June timeframe, and we'll have to figure out if that is successful, how we administer that.
That's fall, isn't it?
I thought it said June in his
What?
report, the cover.
Announcement, rink.
Oh, no, that's already fall. Did I put June?
I thought I read June, could be me. Double check it for me.
I'll double check. It'll probably be fall. It'll probably be
Okay,
end of August.
so we'll have
September.
time.
Yes.
We'll have time on that one.
Yep.
Okay, good. So you don't see anything that's hanging that we're gonna have to be concerned about?
I don't see anything that's hanging. I did want to let you know, I just got a new grant today, and I'll email it to you. It's only for not-for-profits. It's not for municipalities, but it's a climate. Let me pull it up here. It's for climate impact grants for nonprofits, community-based organizations, and environmental justice areas. The village is not an environmental justice area, but part of the town from 12 and the village line out is on the map in the village in the area, so that
Okay.
you could. It says that 50% of the residents have to be served by it, so like you could expand it outside of that environmental justice area as long as you're not covering population that makes it more than 50% that's in that environmental justice area. But it's to describe harmful or risks to the air, green infrastructure, agriculture, composting, building capacity. So you might be able to do something with the shoreline out in the town if there's been any damage or resiliency issues, but it's got to be through the LDC.
Right, we would be those.
So I'll forward it to you.
Yeah,
It was
that'd be
just
great.
released today, so it was
Okay.
just sent to me today, so.
Good.
I'll forward it to you and you guys can take a look at it, trying to see what the due date is.
What was the piece that made the village ineligible?
If you're not in an environmental justice area
Okay.
and
Whatever that is.
yeah, there's a long explanation on what's considered environmental and what's not, but it's an easier just to click the map and see what areas are shaded and what is and isn't.
Justice. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Justice or injustice?
Justice. So it's people that, yeah, it's like injustice, like you're low income in that area, or you've lost residents, housing, or jobs and things like that. It's usually what environmental justice is, and it's a state program. Obviously, the federal programs have eliminated those words and disadvantaged communities and everything else.
Mhm. Okay.
This isn't specifically related, but can I ask Scott, when I was looking at the deadline for new store grants, they had this link for additional information, and they listed all distressed communities. And every neighboring town, village and town, was listed as number 2, moderately distressed, and Cape is listed as 4, not distressed. Is that, that's something you?
Yeah.
So that applies to both our town and village. I think.
As far as, or I don't think there's many other programs that utilize that as a
Okay.
designation.
Do you know why that would be? Like what would set us apart from Clayton or Shimon as being, if they're moderately distressed when we're not distressed?
That seems,
I would
Yeah.
say
We're
it's-
doing really well.
I just want to
Is
know
that
where it's
something maybe
hidden.
we could look at? Well,
Yeah,
we can
where-
look into it. I don't know.
I don't know how they determine that, or
Okay.
how you challenge it. I mean, I know like
Okay. All right. I just,
for other agencies, you can do an income survey and challenge it. I don't know how much of like your medium household income for the area.
For
or
the
median
EV
household-
chargers, we were.
you were-
We were, our medium household income was below what it
Right.
needed it to be.
Yeah, so
that's
I
why I
don't know
wonder
what
if
they
this is just
figure for
faulty
restore.
information and we just need to,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know what
might
they
be.
use for that on the
All right.
restore side.
well, in our spare time, we'll figure that.
Yeah, we'll work it out. All right, good. Anything else for Scott? Okay, additional projects, I sent that all to you. There are 2 updates on additional projects that just happened over the last day and a half. One is, we finally resolved the insurance issue with Stacy, and she and I signed the contract today and had it notarized. Thank you, Lord. So she's beginning that work, and she'll get us, as soon as she gets the certificate, she'll get it to you, right? Because Marion's not until Monday.
Right.
So that's number 1. Number 2.
So when will her official start date be then?
She actually was, I would have counted today as working because I actually onboarded her today, so she should have some hours today. And technically the contract was effective today. I did mention to her that you'd be coming to see her. I would say I'd give her till next Thursday just to figure out what's going on. But
Yeah, and I can talk about that later.
yep, okay. All right, the other thing is, so that was the good news. The bad news is that the village did not get the EV charger grant. It did not meet the minimum requirements. So I'm not sure why that would be, Scott. But Pam and I will do a debrief with them to understand why it was not where it needed to be. And then Pam is gonna talk to the board on next
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
to see what would be the steps going forward, since we still have the National Grid grant, but we don't have the chargers, so.
Which is that we didn't accept the net grant, right?
Well, right, I mean, and we kind of just punted it, like,
Yep.
you know, at this point. The question is, can I throw this out just as a discussion, we can take, as we have taken donations, would we be willing to help the village by creating some kind of a donation campaign where people could, and only put one in?
What was the breakdown again, to refresh my?
Yeah, so the infrastructure grant was 161,000. It's a 90% grant. So there would have been on the hook at the end for 16,000, but you have to have the chargers operating in order for that reimbursement to kick in. We priced 3 dual-sided chargers. Under the ground would be for 5, so it was future-proofed at the 161. We put 3 chargers in dual-sided, so that many cars could be charged. And we put a 3-year service contract on them, and it was $283, I believe. So, you could back off from that, right? There could be one charger with a 1-year warranty. I mean, we could do a lot of different things. We were just sort of going, because the chargers was 100% reimbursable. So that was all going to be paid for, and the whole thing would have been 16,000. So the village has to make a decision on where they want to go next on it. But I just wondered, what do you think as a board, if the village asked us to do that, to do some kind of fundraising to offset the cost of one charger? How-
Dual ports.
One dual port.
Yeah.
One
With
dual
the
port.
potential for future ones.
Right.
There are companies out there that will install them for free if they own and operate them. So they
Yeah.
do the billing, they make the money, they set the fees, but they install them for free if the infrastructure's there.
Right.
What's that do to your infrastructure grant though? Does that?
That-
affect
No,
that?
it shouldn't impact it because we future-proofed it. He wrote that specifically as a future-proof. So they know they're gonna pay to wire for 5 under the ground.
Regardless of who owns it or who runs it or who.
They just want to make sure that it's working.
Gotcha.
So that, Scott, if you have some information on that, if you could forward that to us, please, prior to Tuesday would be extremely helpful. So Pam has that, but that might be, I mean, we were thinking of it being a revenue stream for the village for an ROI, but if they just have to worry about 16,000, they might not care as much about the ROI. So those were the 2 updates to additional projects. Anybody have any questions on those?
That grant's due the 13th of August. And I look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. And anything you've got on those, they'll just put them in and run them.
And Pam, there is a long, multiple points on what qualifies you for environmental justice, so you can look at it. It explains what qualifies you.
Okay, great. And that's what you're forwarding?
I did forward it to
All right.
everybody already.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Carol, over to you.
The bills that we would like to pay are WCP Consultants, give me that check back. May Consulting, 1406.25. Rent for March, rent for May, this should say, 150. Ads for the tourism promoter, which were 198 to TI Sun. MRB Group, 594, which was the public authority compliances for all last year, getting finished up in March. Town of Cape Vincent, admin assistant, 121.37 for April. Amazon, we got an open flag for our office, 33.74. Squarespace space, our domain renewal, capevincentldc.org, $20 for the year. Squarespace, our website hosting fee for the year, 276. And Stacy's contract initiation fee, 1576, which comes to 4375.36.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve paying the bills? Mandy and Dan, did you say so? I was like, is that Dan? Mandy and Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ah, Jim, you're here. Hi, Jim.
Lee?
Yes.
Our cash on hand right now is 189,457. I would anticipate we'll get the 20,000 from the village in June. So our CDs, one rolls in on July 11th, one on August 15th. So with our checking account balance of 84,000 right now, with another 20,000 coming in, and with these turning over in July and August, I feel like we could do another 50,000 CD that gets a different 6-month turnover date and still leave a lot of cushion.
Right.
What's in the CD currently?
CD one is 52,733. The other is 51,294. And then the checking account is 84,928 with another 20 coming in soon.
So the idea is to go ahead and not just get one 50K, but both 50Ks.
No, just one,
Just
because we
one.
have 2 50Ks, one which will turn in July,
Yeah.
or we can pull it back, and another will turn in August, or we can pull it back.
Okay.
So the idea is to get one right now.
Oh, you're focused on the July one.
Yeah, no, I'm focusing on taking 50,000 out of our checking account.
So we have
and-
3.
Oh, 3. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Correct, yes.
I'm thinking rolling those over. Okay, you're talking about additional.
Yeah, those
Okay.
would, well, I mean, we'll typically let them roll unless we find we have an immediate need. Because the only other, if the other hire, again, is going to be, it will cash flow.
It'll be cash flow. The only other thing that'll be cash flow, and because we've never set an operating budget for the tourism office. So, because we have no idea what to set aside for that, but it feels to me like it's gonna take us a while before we want to start spending a lot of money, and we should probably have an idea by
And by
August.
July, I mean, that one or August, those could be made lower if we need more money, so.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be my take. That's the only other thing that, we hadn't talked about, because we just, honestly, we don't know how much to put.
So that would leave us, what, 30 to 50K in the next 3 months? If we
Yeah.
roll this over?
If I take 50 out of our checking account and put it into a CD, they'll earn 3.75%.
So we haven't gotten to it yet, but when we come up to the website discussion, with the group and then talking a little bit with Joe, I kind of pressed him with the idea conceptually of what we'd have. I said, roughly, what would it cost to design something like this? And the rough back and napkin math he gave me was $6,000 to $10,000 to design it.
Mhm.
And so let's just say it's on the high end of that. And then who knows what it is to maintain it. There's domain costs for a name, the whole 9 yards. Let's just say it's another $500. So 10.5K, if indeed that was the number, does that change the recommendation to potentially shift and get a third CD at 50K?
It doesn't to me,
Okay.
because I'm literally leaving 35,000 here and paying, that would cover that and our monthly amounts to Stacy and to our
The new
grant
grant writer.
person. And still in July, we got
Make
50 to pick
decisions
from
on the
again,
next
right?
two.
July will be a little bit more, not just let that roll, be ready to say, all right, this is working, or we'll bring that down to 30 or something.
Right. And then again in August. with the other
And then
one.
again in August, we got 2 more chances before we can't, we would no way spend. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But that's good input, but I'm sure it'll work. Plus, if you get somebody going on that, then they're gonna do it, they're gonna bill it, and that's gonna take them 2 months anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that I put 50, and buy another 50,000 CD.
Can I have all right, I got Pam's hand and then Warren's hand. All in favor? Excellent. Okay, Dave couldn't be with us tonight, so there is no finance report. I'm sorry, Carol, did you have anything else? I just keep
No,
skipping. I'm sorry, but, all right, Phil, governance.
So we'll talk about the freedom of information piece and the cyber IT policies that we talked about probably 2-3 months ago. So I put draft policies in the Google Drive, got about 2 reviews and responses. So for the freedom of information one, it's pretty simple. Most of their stuff is on the website. So somebody asking for records, I think are slim and none, but we're required to have it. And so there's the policy, who to go ahead and do a mailing request to. And then we also have our group email, if we want to keep that, or we can just make the decision to go ahead and just keep it, snail mail. And there's a fee structure based off of New York State law for copies. Then there's a language about additional things that we have put on a CD or a thumb drive or something like that. And then there's a request form. And there aren't too many LDCs or equivalent that have one of these policies. So I probably found about 8 or 10. Found 2 that were really LDC-ish. And then I just found one of the forms that I liked more and just kind of made it for us. And that's where that is. And so people want to keep looking at it, fine. If not, we'll go ahead and put that to bed and just make another policy for the next meeting. For the cyber IT, again, 2 comments and feedback. This one's a little more complicated. Certainly not my wheelhouse. I took one of the comments that Dave made because this is more his wheelhouse, and put it in there. We don't have a whole lot of IT. In fact, I only found 3 places that had an IT policy, and I had none for an LDC or something like that. So it took a lot of modification, necked it down, because really what we have is the laptop, we have our Google Drive, we have our web page. That's really the IT that we have. We're not hosting stuff, we're not giving out passwords, whatever. And so, Mary brought up a good point about, backing up the data on the laptop. That's really kind of an external hard drive. So we would have to just go ahead and decide if that's what we want to go ahead and do. It's within our procurement policy because those things are really cheap to just like, we can just go buy one. We don't even have to vote on it, quite frankly. The web page, there's 2 ways to do it. I'm certainly not the expert. I got to go ahead and do it. But basically, we can either manually download those files, painful, or whoever hosts our website. A lot of times they already have a backup system. So I would have to inquire with the server and say, hey, just do you back this up and how often? If it is, then that problem is solved.
Joe
And that's
DeJoya.
Squarespace.
Yeah, Joe DeJoya can answer that for you if you're gonna talk to him about it.
Perfect. And then for the Google Drive, there's a program in Google that I don't know a lot about. and Joe may be the guy to ask this. Or there's another program, you can go ahead and back them up onto another, laptop or something like that. But that to me is
We've got
probably
so
the
much
biggest
stored in
thing.
that Google.
We do.
I know, that's probably the
Um,
scariest thing if we lose that.
Exactly. And so because a lot of the stuff that we post on the web page resides on a Google Drive. So if the web page ever went down, they didn't back it up, then we have a backup to the files required by law. To me, right, I agree. That's the big one. So more research. I only have 2 ways to go ahead and do it that I found, but more work to follow on how we do it. And then that language go into policy. But the policy is interesting. It's really more getting the data backed up. That's really the primary thing.
And I think that's what Bauer's point was, right? That we weren't backing up the data.
Yeah, and I think those are the only 3 things that we really have with data that we really want to back up for the laptop, the page and Google Drive.
It's needed.
More to follow.
Well done.
Yeah.
So,
And then there's also a journal entry one that's been flying around in email, right?
Yes, that was the one that you took, and I have not looked at it yet. Thank you.
It took me till Monday night to get it to you, so.
Yeah, no, I'll look at it.
So-
Told you it'd be a couple days.
Yeah, no, thanks.
A couple days a week.
Oh,
you know.
well, what are you gonna do in your spare time? Thank you.
But basically, Bill, I went through the journal entry policy, reread what she had sent, and
Yep.
it said, she said, here's the thing, and then make it fit what you're doing, and made it fit what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then, except for we do need, I posted, I don't know if anybody oversights it, so I think what I sent you will work.
This is just an internal check, right? It's basically,
Yeah.
you put a journal entry and some disinterested party internally looks at it and says, well, yes, that looks like it matches. Yeah, okay.
Right. Club Street, Dan and Scott.
Pretty well all permitted other than, Army Corps. Looks, sound positive, but we're still kind of holding out for that. Once we get that, then we can go ahead into final design and get the bid.
So, being in our office today, and first job I gave Stacy was clean the dead flies off the windows. So, anyway, we had originally had stuff on the wall that was the original Club Street design, which I know has changed. When do you think we might be able to get anything that looks like what the new design is? I'm just thinking
Like a
having
poster?
something, if we're gonna, like a poster or anything, because we took those down because it drastically changed, right? Once they got the wave study
Not
done.
drastically, instead of a straight out with no curve on it, the main dock is gonna, it's just got a.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if somebody comes in, we
Yeah.
should have the current thing. I don't know if that's something you guys can get for us.
Trying to remember where the heck we even got those.
I think,
Edgewater.
Edgewater
That's what
did
it's
them.
called,
Edgewater doing-
scenario
Yeah,
1A, 2B,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
or
I
not
can
to
check
be.
on that.
just check on, it's just when we were in there, Stacy was like, it would be nice if we're gonna have an open flag and people might be coming in to have some things on the wall. And obviously Club Street would be an important one.
If you get the big ones, we could just print some and put them on a board.
Yeah.
Like print smaller.
Yeah,
ones.
so
Yeah, just print
you could
small.
send- they'll be able to print it
Yeah.
big.
Done that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like if we could get that even, it doesn't have to be the big poster size and just even print it out or whatever. We just, none of, at least nobody on our board has.
Website, I don't know if it is yet, but.
So that drawing is reflective of the current state, and the town hasn't gone beyond that to the drawings you did for the last July submission for the final project that included, Scott, the final project that you submitted that we didn't get. That drawing.
This is the newest drawing. This was just like
Correct.
2 weeks ago.
So this is reflective of the project,
Yes,
and there's
This
not
is what-
grants beyond that.
no,
So who drew that?
Edgewater.
Edgewater.
Okay, so Edgewater should be able to get us. nice big
Oh,
one.
they can get it. It's just a matter of buying the posters if that's what we're gonna do.
We're getting it here because they're not scheduled to come up anytime soon. They could roll it up and throw it in.
Yeah, they
Send
can,
it to you.
I'm sure we can get them printed somewhere.
They could probably print them right in their office like quickly.
Yeah. They were cheap. I remember that.
Oh, really?
We got the hardboard. Maybe we could just get the,
Yeah, in
You
fact,
can
we don't,
actually just-
honestly,
I can
anything
put
we
them
could,
on hardboard phone
Yeah.
core. You could keep the phone core.
I mean.
And we can
your
just-
phone
Yeah, I
cord
think
is
that
sticky
all-
and just that-
Fell off the wall and
Did
got
it?
dented and
Okay.
all that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we don't want to spend millions of dollars.
Oh,
but
no,
I mean, I would think you guys are gonna probably want something up at the town like you did before, if you get one, if you could
I
get
think
us.
there is one at the town.
I was up there today, I didn't know.
On the,
I
I
could've
think we
maybe
replaced
not.
it.
Yeah,
But
anyway,
I'll
just,
check.
yeah, if you could check on it, Dan,
Yeah.
that'd be great. It's just, it would be nice to have that in there.
And Billy and the crew got some gravel down there and leveled that off. I don't know if you've been down there. It looks
I
pretty
saw
good.
them working down there, yeah,
Just to
spiff it up a bit.
spiff it up. We're concerned about parking. We're not sure what to do to keep people from
Parking on
parking. I mean, we don't mind parking on it, but we want people to take a lawn chair or, you know, like French Day, maybe we could set it up for parking or something along those lines, but we don't want to put something that you can't move if you do want to use it. And so we're kind of going back and forth on what to do with
it.
that.
So once you hear from the Army Corps,
Yeah.
can that dock system start being put in, or I guess I'm.
Yeah, our hope is, once we get that, we hope to get the shoreline out to bid and completed by the end of this year.
Okay,
They're not gonna do final design and bids and specs until they get Army Corps in case something has to change. So all you have is this preliminary scope.
right, it's still preliminary, I get that.
Right. And then put the docks out to bid and hopefully have them ready to put in boating season next year. That's our,
Voting season of 26.
right.
Okay. Well, that's
Sure.
good.
They say that's aggressive and I'm like, oh my God, it can't be aggressive.
Right,
The
I'm
Army
nervous.
Corps can be slow, that's the only, but hopefully they'll.
Yeah,
The update we
they,
got this week said hopefully by the end of next week.
yeah, we got
Oh,
at
that's
least a
great.
nod that it was.
Well, and
going
that's
good.
great, then you could get the shoreline done, and that would,
Right, that's the
even
big
that's gonna
thing.
look nice.
Get that secured and so.
Good, all right.
One
Well, great.
question on Club Street, Scott, did you do the exit or the debriefing, or did Dan, did you guys do the debriefing with the state for the grant we didn't get?
We didn't do that.
We did not do that because I guess the question would be eligibility. They said that because the town didn't have a purchase offer on the next boathouse.
Right.
It was ineligible, even though that's the exact same thing we did that we got the last grant for. Like,
So we
did-
could, was that the only thing? Well, we
That was
could,
the only thing.
the
Yeah.
village could still request a debriefing as well, just to know what.
Well, I don't, it had to be the town. It wasn't a village application. You weren't even a partner on that.
We're not, it's, okay, you're saying it's not a joint project.
Not in the application it was.
Okay.
I'm saying the town was the
But
applicant.
well, this goes back to that whole thing, so, it's in our joint LWRP, so the village cannot not be included.
I understand that, but the application itself was a town application. It wasn't a joint application.
Okay,
So the town would have to be on the call at least. They won't even meet with me and do a debrief.
right,
unless
so
somebody
the
from
town could request it,
Yes.
and the village could partake,
Yes,
in case there's going to be the next round. I don't know if the
Yes.
town's already discussed that or not.
We haven't at this point. but-
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, Dan, we move right to you on update on town's activities, anything in addition at the town?
We, as you know, we submitted the rink grant
Mhm.
a week ago tomorrow.
yeah, that's right.
Last Friday. Our hope is that if we are awarded, that the LDC would take the lead on it. It has to be a town or municipal grant, but we could still have this board administer it, control it. It is 90%, which is huge.
That's great.
We did include administration fees, so LDC could make the fees from it and build it.
Did you put a copy of that in?
I'm still putting it together because there's like 20 attachments, so I'm trying to save one PDF to upload
Okay,
for everybody.
yeah, I'm just,
And that
My
was the
fear
other
is
discussion,
losing
is,
stuff.
you know, it's gonna be working capital. It was 989 or pretty close to $1 million.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have about 90 or 100,000 out of pocket for the match. But the idea is the working capital. You're gonna need a couple, 300,000 to get something done, submit for reimbursement, get it back, get something else done. And I don't know, can the LDC actually borrow the funds to fund that for working capital?
The town would have to pay the bills. I mean, it's, the invoices will have to be to the town, the canceled checks will have to be to the town, the reimbursement would go back to the town. So I don't know, I'm not a financial person.
Because we talked about that, rather than have us either borrow or fund it, have the LDC take it from the get-go, borrow the working capital funds, work the funds back through. I thought about the same thing with the EV grants. Instead of making the village come up with whatever it was, 400 grand up front.
Yeah, I think the problem we have as an LDC is our only funding stream is the two municipalities. And think about it, if you were a bank and I came to you and said, well, yeah, and the two people that fund you cut you 50% last year. I mean, we don't have a
Well, I
good
mean,
financial
With our
story.
credit, obviously it isn't something that we would ask you to stick your necks out with.
Oh, and I'm
But
just
the
saying that I
idea
don't
is-
think we look as, positive as we could had we had a continuous
But
stream.
that's what we gotta start looking at, is viability to go after things, borrow money, take charge of things and show who we are.
Mhm.
People don't even know what we're doing or who we are yet. And then that was our discussion with our board, is this would be a great project for the LDC to all of a sudden bust out of the,
Well, and I think we could bust out of it with the administration of it, right? And managing it without being in a situation to, try to get funding. I mean, that would be my only concern. I don't know
I
what
think
the
it would
rest,
look really bad with the accounting piece if we borrow the money, but we can't pay the bills. That's just an accounting nightmare, I would think.
they wouldn't give you the money if you couldn't
Exactly.
pay the bills.
Well, right, and then if Scott's saying it's a town grant,
Yeah, I
We
don't know the
can't-
semantics. I don't even know if it would work.
but I think the concept, Dan, so I think there's, we say there's, the finding grant, writing the grant, paying and administering the grant.
Mhm.
It sounds to me like, and we had said that the LDC in a grant where the town, village, or LDC was the group that was going to apply for the grant,
Mhm.
right? That we would manage all three of those phases, right? So, the grant was found by our grant writer that we pay. He wrote the grant, and it would be our responsibility to administer the grant with what we decided at our last meeting.
Mhm.
So the administration piece is clearly what we all discussed, correct? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So, I think this is a great opportunity, to
I
your
do too.
point, to do that. I think the idea of the funding is just something that gives me some angst, just because I don't think we have a good story to tell right now, as far
I
as our
disagree.
funding stream.
If you had to borrow, based on what we have, if you had to borrow $150,000 or $200,000 for 6 months, just for the working capital, or 8 months, it's not gonna be a dragged out project. Once it goes out to bid, this thing is gonna be built in months.
Who's
Yeah.
that funded by? Which organization? It's not DASNY.
State parks. And it's a brand new program.
Because we just
first
got,
year.
we're supposedly getting our 50,000, which has taken 10 years from DASNY. But Mary got
Anyway.
actually confirmation that it should be 3 weeks. Our
10 years
Mary
and
Rock.
10 years and 3 weeks. Okay,
3
anything else, Dan?
No,
Okay, Pam, Village.
Village, so let's see, we had a public community meeting that Mary did a great job talking about the streetscape project for the community to start getting an understanding of what's going to happen along there. We tried to make sure that all the downtown business owners who are getting grants as well through the small project fund were there, so they could have input and understand what might work together and what might not. So that went well. It was well attended. What was else? Ferry communication continues. That's Jerry's other full-time job. And that goes back and forth from sounding optimistic to not so much. So I think we'll have an update next Tuesday as well, but a lot of that's beyond everybody's control.
Pam, I have a
Yes.
very related question. Jerry indicated that, I don't know how much they owe the village. I mean, has the village got any
75.
intent of collecting that money?
Do they have intent?
Just, right,
Yes, we've talked to our attorney. We have to go ahead and file that piece of paper that says we have I don't know, considered a lien essentially. And there have been communications where, the remaining owners that want to sell the ferry as a whole would get to, go for that offer whereby the village would, forgive the debt, but acquire the property. And then allow it to be leased or used for the ferry to operate, which would be much more desirable because then we can improve the land, get a grant for that and go forward.
and if
Have it
they're not
looking
willing to
nice.
do that, then they're
Um,
just probably in the state to get this money collected from.
Right. But there was, both of the family members had interest in that, so that we won't know, or I don't know how. The owner's goal is to sell before the end of the year. There's a group on the island, including the person who wants to apparently buy it and has the ability to buy it, to try to make something happen where the ferry could run this summer, even without the sale being finalized. And then the latest piece I heard, which was not official, was that it might be the Canadian government that's going to say, is already kind of putting the nix on it, that it's too, up in the air and they're not going to open their side for immigration.
Just read an article too that the Wolf Island ferry's not even running.
I saw it being towed away last time.
That was the electric one.
Yeah.
I had-
Well, they have another fire.
Yeah, they had the old one. The old
That's the
one
new
seems to
one.
work. It's the new electric one that was, that
Read
they
it was
ran up
repaired, but
into
they're not
something.
gonna run it.
It's been problematic since it's
Yeah,
operational, I guess, so.
yeah. Unfortunately. Okay, anything else, Pam?
I think that's it, other than Scott, if you would, the smart growth comprehensive plan grant that we didn't get, were supposedly, that was a joint, I
Yep.
believe, grant. We were going to get a
Yeah, I'm gonna-
briefing, did you get that, or? is it-
Danny set that up and I sent you the notes, I thought.
Yeah, we just sat through that, I don't know, months ago.
Oh,
I thought I sent you the notes.
I don't believe I got them,
Okay, I'll resend it.
thank you,
Pretty sure.
Pam, before we get off that
Yes.
topic, comprehensive plan,
yes.
any updates on that?
Not really. Michael Forsey, who's getting ready to retire, has us as number one on the list for assistance from the county to update, rewrite the joint comprehensive plan, which would be great. But he can't guarantee that it could happen any sooner than 6 months based on the current staffing now. They're trying to hire more planners. But that is something that if it happened, we might look to the LDC for some assistance with, in terms of more manpower or committee members to get that going. But like I said, it's probably not going to be that
Yeah, I mean,
quick.
so the comprehensive plan is from 2012,
Yes,
correct?
well, yeah,
Yeah, so, the idea of getting that up to date would be good. And so hopefully, if we're number one on the list, and that's a free service.
that
From
is
the
a free
county.
service, yes.
All the data and everything in it was updated in 19. I updated it all, projects and everything, and it was on the village and the town's desk to approve, and they just never approved it.
But it wasn't complete. There were still things
There
that
was
the
sections.
village had to do.
Marty had to do his
Yeah.
5-year plan and Billy
Right.
had to do his 5-year.
So it's outdated now anyway, and if, we'd need to get that, I think I requested a few things from you, that was one of them, yeah.
What's the timeline on the DOT project? Do we have any?
Well, they're holding off until fall because of the streetscape portion, so they're giving us a little bit of leeway. But there will have to be some decisions made, because if they go ahead and get ahead of the streetscape project, we'd be in a position to tear out potentially stuff that they do.
Right.
So they talked about maybe doing sections not within that streetscape, starting further east of Esselstein. and
So they're
working on
actually
those.
ready to roll then.
Yes,
That's
I wasn't
exciting.
at that meeting, but Christine was, and the woman from DOT is working closely and knows what's going on with the streetscape. So hopefully we won't be
And
redoing.
what is that? Is that infrastructure or?
It's the curbing and handicapped accessible pieces of,
Okay,
yes, the sidewalks.
Similar to
mainly,
3 Mile
sidewalks.
Bay, they did that a few years ago.
Right,
I mean, it'll be a nice upgrade.
it will be, it will
for the
be. It's
village.
unfortunately, we were hoping, it could have just, they can't change their schedule at all. So if we get this little bit of leeway, I guess if we say to hold off till fall, as long as the streetscape doesn't jump ahead of it, which it shouldn't, I guess we'll be fine. But no guarantee.
I don't know if I'm confusing or not. Didn't we have a discussion within the past year? There was concerns about underneath having to do that work first. So we didn't do all this nice stuff on top and then have to go ahead and destroy some of it to go ahead and do some of the repairs to the infrastructure and the sewage or water.
it's still a problem.
Is this in this footprint?
It is, and it's also on Club Street, and it's the same concern there. The hope is that as we move along, our DPW can address issues as they arise, but
So there's no infrastructure type
no,
grants
no,
available.
no,
Well,
which seems crazy that the state would, throw out money like that and not help you.
There is infrastructure grants through EFC that they can apply for, but they need to do a preliminary engineering report that would cost the village about probably $50,000. Have the report done to get listed on EFC and seek the grants. So we talked about that last year, the year before, as part of the DRI, it was mentioned. So there is infrastructure grants, but you need to do the preliminary engineering report up front. It's probably $35,000 to $50,000 to do that downtown section.
So the risk is with the money that's been approved in for the Club Street and the streetscape thing, if something happens
You'll be
with the
digging-
water sewage,
You'll be digging
we're
up
destroying
sections of
portions of to get out.
same
So-
situation.
And
with-
then
So-
the other risk is you spend 35 or 50,000 and you don't get a grant and you're out to 35 or 50,000. I mean, but that's the only way you're gonna be eligible for a grant is to do it.
Which the village is looking at that as well, but
All right,
the
that-
timing's not gonna be, so.
Any other questions for Pam? Nope. All right. Warren. Oh, I'm not skipping. Lori Moss sent us an email. Last minute, she had a change. She did email an update. There were some dates in there. I think the thing that was probably the most surprising was that their administrator, Ariel, is resigning. So I guess they'll be looking for 2 positions because they're gonna hire someone in the front and a new person in the back, is the way I read that. But you all got the email. She sent it to everybody. All right, Warren.
Yes. I'm here to inform and to entertain. That's what I do. For better or for worse, right? So anyways, I sent out an email about Tour de Cape as sort of a part of the branding of having a bike trail. I was here actually, last November, talking about, rails to trails and so forth, but that train has left the station, but I still want to keep pursuing the bike angle of this. And I think branding is just so very important if we really want to move forward with this. And I talked about, this in the email, and I'll just sort of summarize some things here. When I came here initially, and you come down, Route 12E, and the sign says home of the gamey, brown bear, it's like, okay,
Black
whatever that
bass.
means. I know nothing about fishing. But the title of where the river meets the lake is obviously fantastic. But having thought about that, they're both passive. They're passive words. And so that's why I started to think and came up with Tour de Cape. as the motto or the branding of promoting biking here in Cape Vincent. Again, you know, tour is an adjective, a positive word. By just changing dot to D, all of a sudden you're French, and we can go ahead and play off of our French background. Everybody has a good connotation of the Cape, Cape Cod, Cape Hatteras, Cape May, Cape whatever.
Vincent.
Cape Vincent, right, exactly. And we're part of that positive thing that we're trying to do here. So anyways, you know, I thought that, you know, to promote, you know, biking here, that would sort of be our brand of Toward the Cape. And then I took it one step further, just thinking about it. Again, this is brainstorming, but as a brand for the town of Cape Vincent, the village of Cape Vincent, all you'd have to do is add one more word, and that would be come. Come toward the Cape. As an outsider, I see the challenge is like our two biggest assets. You got the lighthouse on the one end, you got East Park on the other end. And that's like 3.5 miles. And as everybody knows, you know, you go to Sackett's Harbor, you go to Clayton, you know, you go to Alexander Bay, everything's really concentrated. So by sort of emphasizing whether you do it through the biking or whether you do it through branding, is the idea that you can tour this area because it's a beautiful area. And that is something that I think that we really need to try to emphasize. I went ahead and put together some preliminary maps for biking. This is all about tourism. This is all about trying to get people to come to Cape Vincent and spend money. That is the bottom line to all this. That is the bottom line to all this, is to try to bring people in. People here know they can bike anywhere, but to use these bike routes and t-shirts to go out there and promote outside of Cape Vincent, you know, Watertown, Syracuse, you know, it goes on and on and on. Oswego, that's what we need to do to try to bring people into the area. I suggested one route, which is a simple route, is just 7 miles. That's just going back and forth. Now, I got handout. I also have a T-shirt that from 1991, The Great Ride. There you go. You know, I like to get the costume when I do these things. But you know, just see that. So they are the two routes that I'm, you know, suggesting. The one that's a 7 mile run, 7 mile ride, is just basically leaving Club Street, going up to the lighthouse, going to the other end. Okay, sure. East Park, yeah, okay. And then circling back. Again, I mean, this is just a draft. I did it this way. I went off of Joseph Street just to try to tie in the Catholic Church there's at the corner. Initially, I thought the idea of coming up to the rec center and back, but if we wanted to really make it simple, make it attractive, make it easy for people, then maybe the first route would just be back and forth. Again, tour the Cape, tour the Cape. We're not one single entity here. It's not visit the Cape, it's tour the Cape. So that one, you know, I can still play around with it. If you look at the back, it also shows you, you know, step-by-step for each turn, and I'll get into that also. The other route, which I think is the one that we really should promote as hard as we can, is the 15 to 25 mile course. Like I said in my email, I did everything I could to get away from some of the rural blight that's out there. I mean, you don't go down Route 4 because of the Andy White complex. You don't go down Bradford Corners for so many reasons, you know, pretty ugly area. The only challenge I had putting this together was that, you know, there is some barns on the other side of the winery that are decayed. And we are going back and forth in front of that house on 12B. I always call it the Met House. I don't know what that is, you know, where Deer Lake is. And
Remember, we record these for the public.
okay, that's all right. But anyways, a house that's a little run down, let's say. But anyways, what we're doing there is, you know, we're going to the lighthouse, then we're going down Wilson's Beach, and then we're coming up And then once we get to the corner of Fair and Route 12, we could break that down. You could head back into, and that would be a 15-mile route. Or you can go ahead and loop out, on Mason Road, bring it back on Hell Street, and then circle your way back. Having looked at that, I mean, it's really just a beautiful route. It's a beautiful route. We're not spending too much time on 12B. That's also a big concern of mine. You could go ahead and go from, I also make sure I include Angel Rock on this because you would just go a little bit there on, I think, Gloucester Street, and then make a quick left, to get to.
I saw it's on the map.
Yeah, that's right. That should go on the map. You could go ahead and go straight down 12B into the village, but again, as I said in my email, I'm just concerned how tight a space that is when you start approaching the village. It does say bike route, but you got 2 feet on both sides. I'd rather not, work with that. People can bike anywhere they want. Again, this is just an advertising tool to get out to whatever, the 100-mile radius.
So the one, I'm sorry.
No. So I just want to go ahead and make sure this is all great and we should have something like this, but my question is, because I was kind of reading your email, who do you see doing this? Because I don't see the LDC doing this.
Correct.
So who would this be? Who would do this? Would
Stay
be-
tuned.
Yeah, so, all right, because, I mean, my concern with us getting involved in establishing it or being involved in things like T-shirts, whatever like that, I don't see that as our business. As far as
But it's a
promoting,
tourism, chamber of commerce business.
but-
Not Chamber of Commerce.
so,
Tourist.
but as far as event promotion, word of mouth, other things like that for the LDC, I absolutely see us involved in this. So I just wanted to find out kind of what that next step was.
Sure, give me another minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
no,
all right.
I'll through this. So anyways, I didn't get any negative feedback on the 15 to 25 mile route. And I think it's a winner. Like I said, a lot of time on it, really paints the village and the town in the best light I could come up with.
So your request from the LDC is the $80 to
That's a start.
purchase this,
Well,
right? To purchase the software to
okay,
create.
I've worked with 2 softwares. I've worked with Bike My Ride, which is very inexpensive, and that's the very first map that I threw out there. That's $29 a year. I went ahead and purchased that. Okay, the one that I'm showing here is a little more robust. It's a lot more robust. And that costs $80 a year for membership. I mean, this is not.
Right,
But,
so, and for that $80, you could create these and then people could look at them and download them online?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to understand.
Bikers will do that automatically.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I have a friend who lived in Cape and moved to Gloucester, and it's Cape Ann, and she uses this program for her long ride around the Cape, and they stop at a halfway point and swim.
My
and-
brother-in-law's a big biker. and
Yeah,
he
so I
does
mean,
the same
bikers
way.
will find it. It seems like this ride is a little more popular potentially than the original, which was like my ride.
You're right, right.
So this does seem like it has more features and.
So many more features. You can really, like you said, do so much with it. Like even here, if I wanted to, I mean, you could put like photos of, the lighthouse, you can put little icons for the park. But like you said, it's more for people using GPS. But I can still use this and this to create handouts and brochures.
Right.
Okay. I also, and then the main reason was, this is the app that the bike shop in Watertown uses, and I want to stay in sync with them. Again, as I said in the email, I've looked at every bike shop, around, and fortunately, the one in Watertown is the most advanced in terms of promoting events, promoting biking, and they use the GP, Ride My GP.
So in this
And
program,
oh, just
Oh,
one
I'm
last-
sorry, one more
just one last
question.
thing, but getting back to Bill's comment, I mean, I could go ahead and put all this out tomorrow. Okay, I could put it out on all the bike shops and I could promote it like crazy. but I think it would be better to do it under the LDC. And have the LDC be the subscriber to Bike Line or Ride GPS.
So, so here's my question.
Sure.
So I had, the lighthouse had a scavenger hunt, which was for families, right? It was historical and you went around and I gave that to you.
The t-shirt or the,
Well, it had the,
I didn't see the t-shirt.
no, you didn't see the t-shirt, but the ride and it was like, you know, when you stopped here and what year was the cannon at East End Park, you
Right,
know,
right,
and you
right.
could go.
Right.
I bring that up for two reasons. One, I think it would be nice to have a version if we decide to do this, that's appropriate for people with children,
Mhm.
right? Children aren't gonna, you know, but to go to the lighthouse from downtown and back, you know, it's not too much. The other reason I bring it up is the lighthouse isn't going to run it anymore. And the reason is they did it one Saturday in July, which we all know what July is like around here. And, you
Nor
know,
did they promote it
and they didn't promote it well.
at all,
Okay,
zero.
well, whatever.
So that's why nobody showed
But
up.
the point, yeah, but the point, my point is that they have over 200 t-shirts, which they are not willing to give away because they need to make money to maintain the lighthouse. So one thing that I had suggested was that if we did add that as one, that people could stop halfway through at the visitor center and they could buy a commemorative t-shirt if they wanted. I bring that up only from, we would see how many people would want a t-shirt because we have access to 200 of them in every size, from little kids to big heavyset people. So my question would be, I just bring that up for consideration around doing the expense of a t-shirt.
And
That's just my
I'm
point.
looking at branding.
I understand.
And I'm looking at tourism. I'm looking at bringing money into Cape Vincent.
Yeah,
And
as
that is the number one issue with doing this.
I
It's not so much local.
yeah,
Not so much
I'm
local.
not debating that. All
Yeah.
I'm saying is, do we walk before we run? And
It's
do
a good
we,
pun. No, we bike people.
my point is that, at least my point of view, having read this, is I think that this is a tourism thing. It is a thing where we could use Stacy to make slick brochures that could be at our tourism, our LDC office, at the chamber, that people could pick up, and it could be advertised. That there would be multiple versions, right? The two you have here, and possibly the cute one for families with kids going around looking at historic stuff. But that we would wait on the t-shirts. That's my point of view.
Okay.
But that's just my
That
point of
brings me
view.
to my next, handout. And again, I talked about this in the email that I sent out, and the importance of the t-shirt. And that's why I'm not so much on that. What I'm saying is we should develop a t-shirt that brands Cape Vincent.
I
Okay?
don't think
Two-
this type of stuff is in the LDC's preview. That's my opinion.
Any-
I'm not against it. I think it's
Okay,
a
well,
great idea.
let me
but-
finish. I mean, I did hear about, what does, from Dan, what does LSD, there you go, LCD do? I mean, how do we get out there? How do we get our name out there? How do we get our name out there? And this could be a vehicle. And I'm using this as an example. And again, it's a t-shirt that I was a race director for a soup kitchen. And we went ahead and we went to the school and we ran a contest, okay? And kids came up with this incredible t-shirt that was just so wildly popular. And what it was, a runner holding a soup bowl, okay? It was an absolute home run. And then we went ahead and branded. We give people little certificates when they would do it. It's all about branding. If we would have brochures, it'd be the same things here. It's all about branding. Now, I did suggest us going to the Thousand Island School, but I'm a stranger in a strange land here, and I would never be able to walk into that
And they
school.
do that for French Festival. The French Festival t-shirts are designed by the high school, correct?
Elementary.
Elementary
Elementary.
school.
And I feel Cape Vincent's already branded. We have the lighthouse. I feel like that's been used on almost all of our branding stuff in the river. So if we're gonna brand it again, we need to include those things.
Yeah, I think we're talking two different things.
I
They're
agree.
related, but so basically there is this right here. I don't necessarily say, create 3, 4, 5, whatever bike routes for whatever reasons that we select. I don't disagree. That could be in the LDC's purview. We pay the thing, we put it on the side or the event promoter, we look at it.
But
Good. Hold
you're
on,
using
hold on,
LDC.
hold on. Okay. Let me.
Sure.
Okay. So I don't necessarily think that's necessarily a bad thing. Okay, whether it be direct or through the event promoter. Products, okay, like the t-shirts, stuff like that, I do not think it is in our purview, nor should it be. The branding is something different in the sense of the brochures, the website, the event promoter, I don't know, whatever the signboard thing that we have in our strategic plan. And I think those are kind of the core pieces of the branding for the LDC, or it could be a project that we take lead on and say, hey, look what we did as the LDC giving back to the municipality. I think that's the brand on that. I think this is, could be related, but I think the branding is more to the town or the village of Cape Vincent, not necessarily us. And that's why I don't see it kind of in our wheelhouse. That's.
Sure, and this is maybe where I'm still getting confused, where the tourism begins and where the Chamber of Commerce begins. Because to me, this is not LCD. Whatever. This is not LCD. Okay, this is tourism. This is tourism. Tourism is under.
Right, so we put
So,
the,
so to
yeah,
me, this is all should be driven by the tourist position. Should
Right.
all be driven by, again, tourism, let's bring money into the area.
okay,
So
so
let's have a slick promotion. Let's have a slick promotion to do it.
So nobody is disagreeing, I don't think, up to the point of the t-shirt. I think everybody agrees with the brochures, a promulgation of the event through the event promoter, possibly the website, possibly the events calendar. Again, it's the product of the t-shirt. I think that's the sticker. I don't think anyone disagrees necessarily up to that point.
Well, and what I'm saying, no, well, all I'm saying is the T-shirt is a vehicle that I've seen, and I even use the example of the New York City Marathon. Never underestimate
But
the
those are
power.
events. Those are events. This is an event. Like if we have a tour to Cape event,
But I'm not talking about an event. I'm just talking about promoting biking.
I know, but you're not listening. All of those things you're referencing
Mhm.
are events that were held and they got a T-shirt. I did the event, I got a T-shirt. That's awesome. If there is an organization that holds an event, our promoter would promote it. So if there's an organization or the bike shop in Watertown wants to host a tour to Cape in Cape Vincent, and there's T-shirts with it, that is awesome. And we would help promote it. But I agree with Bill, it's not our role to give out T-shirts, because if we're giving out T-shirts for the tour to Cape, why are we not giving them out for the lighthouse? Why are we not giving them out for the brewery? Why are we not giving them out for every organization that is drawing people in to Cape?
so let me summarize what I think I'm hearing. So the idea of the tourism promotion position is to draw people into the Cape. I think that's why we feel really comfortable with the maps, right? And having Stacy work on a brochure that people can pick up and do a self-guided tour via bike, right? Because we've talked about, we build these docks, that's great, we get transient people here, what are they gonna do? This is something they would do, so that all makes sense. When I met with Stacy today, I said, I don't expect you to add any events in the first year. I expect you to promote the hell out of the ones we've got, right? Because we've got a lot, right? I mean, that spreadsheet, if you guys haven't looked at it, it's impressive with the amount of events planned in Cape Vincent. So I think what I'm hearing, Warren, is people love this idea. I do think we need to agree that we pay for the $80 fee. But what I'm hearing is that people don't want to go as far as the T-shirt at this point. Let me just make sure. I think I summarized what I heard. Did I summarize correctly what I heard from folks in the room?
I'm on that page.
I'm on that page as well.
Okay, so I think that's what you're hearing as a summary. Jim, do you have anything to add? I don't want to get you out of the.
No, I agree. How Bill framed it is how I think about it, but also when an event like this is done, the equivalent of the Watertown bike place has a self-interest in getting involved in basically the t-shirts as well. But it is a tourism thing that's generally done by a chamber or an organization that's tourist development. It's not quite our role on the beyond what was defined as the promotion and what we do and some nominal amount of money and nominal support. I did have a question for Warren, two questions actually. Do you see, where do you see how much does this cost overall to do? And when do you see it being done?
Two good questions. I wish I had answers.
Well, there's $80 for
Well,
the,
$80, no, but what I'm saying, and you keep using the word event, this is not an event. This is not a single
It's an
event.
ongoing.
right.
It's an ongoing, getting people to come to Cape
Mhm.
and using it as
And I think
a
that's where
tourism
they're-
vehicle.
Yeah, and I think that's where they're making a differentiation.
And
If there
that,
was an event, they think there should be a t-shirt.
Right.
We're all agreeing it's not an event. It is things to give people something to do when they come here.
I think the t-shirt could be the next step, whether, I don't know, they established a group in Mass there, it's Bike Gloucester, it could be Bike Cape and a group of local people, and then you maybe, you work on a t-shirt venture that becomes part of something. But I see it that as step two, but maybe I'm.
So,
Could I
Go
just
ahead.
finish
but,
the
so anyway,
question?
back to answer your question. I think putting all this stuff online costs us $80. What, we can't spend $80 to.
How much
much?
Warren, how much do the t-shirts cost?
That's a good question, and I do not have an answer. I would
Well, you
say,
should have an answer before you raise it. Let's just say it's $500, right?
that's an expensive t-shirt.
Well, I'm using a bigger number, but this
Okay.
Watertown bicycle place, in terms of how much it's willing to support itself with this or support us with this, would there be financial support possibly from this bicycle shop?
No.
Okay. And then when do you think that, when would you want to do this?
Well, that's a good question. I'm ready to, here's the answer to that. I am ready to work with Stacy to do the online, okay, to put it out there on all the different websites. Maybe we can put it out there on the chamber. We could put it out there on the events, and that does not cost anything.
When is this event? Let's call it an event. When do you want to do this?
It is not an event. It's an ongoing process. And let me-
Okay, when does this happen?
All
All
summer.
summer,
All
all
summer.
winter,
and
whenever
fall.
Jerry wants.
Okay.
But let me just also talk about a bigger picture that I brought up the first time that got shut down. This is also all part of enticing the bike shop to put a seasonal bike shop here next summer. And that's another reason why I'm working with the bike shop in Watertown. He is this close to opening a bike shop in Watertown, or excuse me, in Cape Vincent. Okay, but why I wanted to be able to work with, validate that, yes, we can get people to come out here in Cape Vincent and bike.
Okay.
When you go on this, if I have a subscription to ride with GPS and I click on this, do you get insights, algorithms back saying how many clicks?
Yes.
Great. I say we do this. I propose we put this out there and we can revisit this in October when bike season kind of
For
wraps
the
up.
next year.
See what our algorithm is, see if this is even worth putting any money into, because I know there's bikers that come to the community, but there's also boaters. And there's also retirees that just come and watch the water. So how much money are we gonna spend getting bikers to come when we have 20 bikers?
Well, I think I'm hearing consensus and would like, I don't know, for $80 if we even have to have a vote, but it feels to me like the room is saying they would like to, and let me summarize, that they would like to pay for the subscription to the Ride GPS. They would like Stacy to work on some kind of a brochure format that could be left in multiple places for people to pick up. And then we revisit it after this summer to see how it goes.
I think Mandy already made that motion and I would second it.
I'm just making sure I had the full thing, okay?
The other part, bikers will, even no matter how much you produce on paper, bikers are already, once it pops up that CAPE is
Yeah.
on there, bikers will find it. Because when I went to it the first time, I noticed there's nothing on Wolf that is marked. They would be an obvious next place to tell them to get on the map, but without the ferry running, it's
Right.
not as critical. But anyway,
Okay, so we have Mandy has a motion to ask Warren to do the bike GPS. Is the right thing to do, he does it and then just gets reimbursed probably?
Sure.
Would that be the easiest?
Well, no, I think Stacy or the tourism position has to go and sign up for it, not me. I'm already signed up for it. I could go ahead and put all this out tomorrow, but I wanted to put it out under the tourism position.
Okay, she's not gonna have any special ID, so it's just gonna be, if you put it out or she puts it out, it's gonna be under their personal ID. She doesn't, we're not gonna, unless we have to do it through contact CVLDC, and I don't think we wanna go down that path. We already get enough junk there. So, I mean, we could just reimburse you for your thing, and then you give her,
Oh, I'll do it for free.
no, that wasn't the, no, but the point, just so we can get through this. The point is that I agree with you that most of them are gonna download it, but people who don't think about it might pick up a brochure that she, and that's her expertise, is to be able to put
Definitely.
something like that together, so.
I didn't mean to discourage.
And that ties back to what Jim asked that I do not know and that the tourist position would give me is how much would it cost to have, like we said, a map
Right, like that,
like this,
Yep.
this. But again, I'm back to a map, but having a really cool
I know, we're not going
item
there.
on it.
Okay, I understand your point, I'm reading the room and they're not going there, okay?
I mean, that,
Already
I get that,
established.
and that. should be
Yes,
part of
I
it.
understand, okay,
So-
time.
So can so we've done motions in the past where basically we approve something, but it's based on some form of research. And so right now, our sticking point is not necessarily an individual with this right GPS. So there's some research that has to be done on, can we create some sort of group account? Because just because we see Stacy, let's say Stacy leaves in 6 months.
That's my argument, Andy.
So is really just to do research, but we have pre-decisional that we agree as an LDC. We want to ride with GPS.
Mhm.
We want to create bike route map things to post in a variety of things. We want our promoter to go ahead and do slick brochures and promote and forget. Nobody's in disagreement with that. We can make the motion to approve that with the stipulation that it's got to be predicated on the ability to get a group account with Ride with GPS.
Okay.
$80.
Okay,
So,
But if not, I mean, I can do it, but I don't want to be in the situation where the chamber is where they've got routes out there and nobody knows how to edit them. Nobody knows where they came
right,
from.
no.
And we need to have redundancy
Yep,
somewhere.
so let's find out if we can get a group, when you meet with Stacy,
Mhm.
which would be probably next Thursday through Saturday, that'll be her official time where she's there. And work those out,
Mhm.
okay? And then if there can be a group one, and then whoever pays for it, if you could pay for the group one, and then submit something to Carol, and Carol will get you reimbursed. Does that work? Okay, we had a motion and a second, all in agreement.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, all right. Thank you, Warren. A lot of good work there. All right, another thing, you guys all got an email on, I'm not gonna bring up anything else on tourism. We kind of talked about that. Grant writing class for Casey. You guys all saw that and the cost for that. She just needs to have the authorization to do that from us.
I'll move.
Dan moves.
So before we sell her away, I want to make sure, are you interested in this?
Yes, I already told Mary I was.
Okay.
Yeah, she did ask.
I asked her before I sent it out. I'm not
Part
that.
of the email.
All right, just want to make sure.
Before we put this out, would you be willing? Yeah, all right.
Whether you want or not.
Thanks, Bill.
At least somebody's looking out for you. All right, I got a motion from Dan and I got a second from Mandy. All in favor?
And thank you, Casey.
Yes, thank you, Casey. We are looking forward to you having that knowledge. All right, good. Over to you, Mr. Bill.
All right, Casey, could you put up that slide, please? And I don't know if you have the ability to share so Jim can see it. There was a link on
Yeah,
there, but I think
scroll
it,
to the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
Oh,
so.
hold on.
Whoops.
Yep, back on Zoom.
That's the first page, right? I think so. Yeah.
All right.
So, no, it just gives you the conceptual. So basically, the bottom line is the website group met a couple of times. Lori, Ariel, and then Dave and I. And so this is just kind of giving you an idea of what information, don't get all wrapped up in the design.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
don't
But
care.
we must have found probably
Which one?
10 state level down to LDC websites. Lori had one that we used actually as the model for it. So basically, buttons at the top, okay, and really the 2-click rule. Okay, if you have to go down more than 2 clicks, then your website is dysfunctional. All right. So what you have there is, so like about us, okay, then the yellow box underneath the CVLDC website, news, impact, full stories and stuff like that, or places to stay. You know, we decided there's an accommodation list that they just updated in the chamber. And so really, you go down one level and that's kind of the bucket of information. Okay, so that just lets you know what's kind of those sub pages. You see a lot of the things we've already talked about. So if you go, why Cape Vincent? All right, we kind of use those titles based on a lot of other, again, selling, you know, why do you want to go ahead and come here? What's so interesting about this place, et cetera, et cetera. And you can do demographic data. We can kind of highlight our schools or tax base, beautiful location, et cetera. Things.
Great
to do-
biking.
you know, biking, we could do that, exactly.
Biking,
Well,
right.
so, you know, we kind of, that's the thing. So if we do this, this application, depending on how it is, you just go bike trails, click, and it goes right to wherever it's hosted. So you have all these things in there. We talked about the volunteer opportunities about a year and a half ago for these different events. So that would be in the thing like, you know, current opportunities, not just the board, it could be volunteers, it could be jobs, it could be commercial property. So just a taste, all right? The idea with all those different pictures, I just put about 5 that I found for Cape Vincent. The idea is either A, you get a variety of pictures. You could even have a solicitation. Hey, we're looking for your pictures in the community. Send them to this POC, whether it's our CVLDC one or whatever, because if you don't change those periodically, and that's both from the EDC course and Joe, all right, it just gets stale. And there's something to do with math and algorithms and neurons and crap like that. But basically, how your website links and comes to the top is partially on how often it changes, okay, as well as the name of it itself. So other places had like, you know, videos and graphics, and I don't think we're there, to be quite honest. And that's a lot of overhead maintenance for the village town. But I think right now you just start with the pictures and go from there. But that gives you kind of an idea of what the information is. And then in the middle there with those pictures, what we liked about the one website is, so you have those buttons at the top, why Cape Vincent, et cetera, et cetera. Then you take the key ones, places to stay, events, whatever, and there's a picture. And it has a little thing, click on it. It goes the same place the top tabs does, okay? But they have a picture as their button, which really kind of stood out and popped comparatively. And then you go all the way down the bottom, it's typical site information, contact, blah, blah, blah. But it's the same, you know, 5, 6, 7 things you want to highlight. Again, go into the same places. It's just kind of the title. So the important thing really is the information and kind of the buckets, okay, for the website. Now, because we have kind of a division of labor, and so, you know, the link should be obviously that we link to is clearly the town site should do town site stuff, municipality information. Same with the village, okay? Different task and purpose for those websites, but clearly linked as partners in this whole thing. Same with the chamber. We've kind of roughly decided as a board to go ahead and kind of keep the business type stuff in the chamber, and we kind of promote the village and, you know, the town itself. So there's some things up there. So the events, you know, either us or, well, probably our event promoter, now that we have one, is kind of the events keeper. We could be a feeder into the chamber. They can post the same thing. They can link to us, whatever. So we're still kind of working those mechanics, but they're kind of linked together with the Division of Labor piece of it. The accommodations we did decide only because reportedly the chamber recently updated their lodging and stuff like that. Campgrounds, state parks, whatever, B&Bs, that's where we would go ahead and link to them.
Do they only put on accommodations that are members?
I don't remember. I know I wrote
Might
down my
want
notes
to
and I
check
don't know.
with that.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of the idea right there.
Mhm.
Without getting into people's rice bowls, particularly the chamber, because we always talked about this website was a threat to their funding model, and still is, okay, because it's kind of pay to play, although they're kind of changing some things. So we have to kind of walk that division of labor, because otherwise, you know, we can create a accommodation list. We can go ahead and list all the business stuff, and that directly undercuts the chamber. So right now, this is kind of the starting position in that partnership, particularly with the chamber and us. Now, so I talked to Joe. We've already talked about the rough back of the napkin math. So 6,000 to 10,000 roughly to go ahead and design it, because something like this would have to go out and say, hey, this is kind of what we're looking at. Here's a graphic depiction, which helped Joe kind of give us some of the figures. And then there's a domain name. Now, I mentioned the domain name because partially there's a fee. It doesn't cost a lot. Joe was bringing up some good ideas. So I think it's the chambers.
They're capevincent.org.
Yes, that is the way you get the hits on Google, come up as your top 1, 2, 3, is to have as many of these little algorithm things, and chambers is probably the closest one. So we get something that's close, we may never get the top 3 or 5. He said we could get the chambers if the chamber will down the road change theirs to something else. Don't know. It's possible, but we will have to get a domain name and switch out or keep it or whatever down the road, and there is an annual fee for that. The other one is, you know, once you design it, there's usually some sort of hosting. So we'll have a repeat fee every single year wherever this thing is hosted. He says that runs anywhere from $250 to $450 a year, depending, based on the back of the napkin. The ease of updating, well, it's going to depend, you know, because the idea was either event promoter or Casey or Yes, or any of us can go in there and kind of manipulate certain fields or change out the pictures or update the events calendar, whatever. It depends on the platform that it's at. So we don't know that yet. And like I said, just as a repeat, he said, there's no real way to kind of guarantee, and I use Google because that's predominant search engine, to kind of get it up there towards the top. So as you search Cape Vincent, it's that site that comes up. Because that's really what we want at the end of the day, to be kind of in that top 3 or 4 or 5. And then once they get it or stumble into it, then we want something that's useful to them to kind of sell Cape Vincent. Again, part of that, the overall branding that we've been talking about. But that's kind of where we're at. I just want to kind of show it kind of a graphic piece of it.
Just a couple questions.
Yeah.
So you would have somewhere up there where if someone was interested in the village or town websites, they would be able to link to that. I'm just.
Yes. So at the top right where it says contact information, go one box to the left, and that's the links.
Okay.
And so,
And that would be things like the Arts Council and Tibbetts Point Lighthouse and those kind of things.
yes, so we
Would
could,
all be on links.
we could put that. There's also with the thousandsislands.org and a few other places that kind of sell the Thousand Islands.
Mhm.
It's really us to choose whatever we want,
Yeah.
because we're not in a bind of having people pay to go and do it. Like the Tibbetts Point, if there's a website and everything, clearly that's one of the things that's a selling point. Absolutely. The bike events, okay, we do something like that. Click, whatever like that, you know, things that stand out. and make
Not
it-
events, not events.
No, but just.
Well, yeah,
bike
but no, but
or
like
something.
if there was an
So,
event.
right, so
right,
basically,
yeah.
if we're known for fishing, the lighthouse, the ferry, art council, what we got, the village concerts, whatever, it's really kind of us to come and put it. Some of the stuff makes more sense in an events calendar. Some of the things makes more sense as an information source when you're looking for it. and it's us to go ahead and tailor, but I picked the top 3
Mhm.
that are kind of obvious things that we would want to link off of our webpage.
I know the town has their own website. Does the village have their own website?
They do.
Yeah, all the different, and all
So
the
they're both gonna have to
organizations.
give up their names by December 31st. So the LDC might want to acquire those. So if somebody goes to town of capevincent.org, it goes to the LDC site.
Why do they
Why
have
are
to
we
give
gonna
it
give
up?
up their names?
You
What are
have to
talking about?
be .gov by December 31st by state law.
Oh,
So all municipalities have to change to .gov sites by December 31st.
interesting.
All right.
So I mean, they might want it for a year where it goes over automatically, but it might be something the LDC might want to take over from them in the future. So
Well, they will keep their current sites and they will forward them automatically to .gov because people have the others for a while.
right, I'm saying if they do it for a year, at some point, the LDC might want to pick it up.
We'll give you a good deal on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So no, I mean,
but,
I gotta
yeah,
say, I
yeah.
think you guys have done really a great start on this.
Definitely.
This is great.
It's exciting.
I know that, only because Joe did them, he did the LDC one, the lighthouse is that, the food pantry is that, they're all square space. And they
Heard the
charge,
pricing Tonight.
yeah, we just paid the bill, so it's like 280.
276 for one, $20 for the
Yeah.
domain renewal, 276 for the website.
Yeah,
But Bill, one thing I want to put out here.
Yeah.
And for this whole group is, we've never done individual email addresses with whatever, either CVLDC.org or this new site. With owning a domain, there's an ability to have emails as well, and it's probably something to consider as a piece of this.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about an email for Stacy too. 'cause
Right.
yeah,
she
As
only-
opposed to Stacy Lucchini at whatever, which
Yeah.
doesn't say anything about us.
right,
And
she
if they're
needs a work
sending in
email.
pictures or
yeah,
trying to,
that's a good point.
and we have the CVLDC at Gmail, which we all get, but again, I
Yeah.
think thinking ahead, we need one for administrative assistant, so things are just going to her that don't need to go to all of us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Do you-
I don't know where
Should
that
I mean,
lands.
since she's starting, should I ask her to get a Gmail, a different Gmail account that's something like Tourism Cape Vincent or something like that? What do you guys
Maybe
think?
for now,
For
until
now,
we
until
can
we,
get
until we move along with
but I
this
think it
other
should be
concept of
more
a
official
future-
at some
yes,
point,
I
so.
agree.
So I didn't realize we could pull, kind of make organizational emails off of like. the
Yeah,
web-
so say
which is
my,
awesome.
my domain that I pay for is angelrock.com.
Right.
And then I have stay@angelrock.com, Carol at angelrock.com. We have different ways to grab those. Okay, I'm only looking at the Carol stuff, but everybody in my office is looking at the state stuff.
No,
So
it's
you can break it
fantastic.
down like that, and it's all tied in with the fact that you have the domain.
So what we'll do is,
But
as we.
Joe could
with this,
Try,
yeah.
Yeah, Joe would know.
have a
how
better
to do it.
understanding of that than I
Yeah.
do, I just don't work.
No, when we do this, because we'll probably have to RFP it just
Yeah.
because of the cost.
Yes.
Is we will put that in the RFP, because most LDCs that are mature do have organizational emails. You know, Dan@cvldc.org, Phil@cvldc.org.
And so I want to
yeah,
remind
which is great.
everybody too, on the seat, our domain is with two, with capevincentldc.org. And then we have that short domain we pay for, which is cvldc.org. And so obviously, in my mind, it's, admin@cvldc.org. Unless it falls under the new umbrella, so
Yeah.
there's those things.
Unless anyone has questions.
So I guess the question is where you guys are in your process. Do we need to say we want to go
For
out with
now,
an
get
RFP?
Stacy a Gmail one for sure, Mary.
Well, yeah, I've got that. Is it to do? I'll make sure I get that done. Yeah, with regard to this, do you
So-
need something from us tonight?
No, this is just an update based on where we're at. Really, the way ahead is to kind of start really peeling back, what is it really gonna cost? What are some viable locations to send an RFP to? Write an RFP to include the email address, stuff like that. And then send it out to the group, say, hey, look, this is kind of what we want to do, whatever, maybe another graphic depiction later, but that first one kind of tells you what we're doing. I can send you the URL of the site that's really the model for it. And rather than the clunky boxes, which are only there just to show you what the subordinate page would look like, you could actually see it in action. It's actually visually pretty stunning.
Yeah.
So,
That's great. Just so you know, the lighthouse last year went out and we did it to Riverview and Clayton,
Riverside Media,
Riverside Media,
North Shore.
North
Shore
Shore,
Web.
and nobody was even close to Joe. We hired Joe.
Yes, well,
No, I'm just, so I mean, there
Yeah, no.
are 3, they
Yeah.
will RFP,
yes.
and we should, that's why I made the Lighthouse do it. We should do it. But just so that you will get responses from those 3, hopefully from Joe. He
That's all I
does a
have.
good job. Excellent. All right.
Scott, how do I get out of it?
Anybody else have?
Stop sharing at the top.
Yeah.
There should be
I don't have a
stop share.
mouse. I don't have touchscreen.
Oh.
I know, we really should have bought touchscreens for you and for me.
Thank you.
It drives me nuts. Okay.
I did it earlier, too.
I know, I keep trying to do it on. Okay, anybody else have anything else today?
I just have a couple things.
I had just a quick update, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, on, what's the update on Aubrey's? And then what's the update on Horns Ferry?
Okay, so the Horns Ferry, Pam was talking about, we don't have an update. Ag and Markets, Scott gave me a contact information. I sent it and she actually responded, which I was impressed from New York State. Her answer was that they were scoring the applications now and we would have an answer by the end of the month. I found that surprising since they were supposed to award it in March, that they were just scoring them. But that was the answer, and so I did contact both our angel donor, and so he was ready in case we get the money. And then also Mike, I let Mike Shavasty know where we were. So thank you for that question. I should have brought that up.
Yep.
Okay, and Scott, you have something.
More for the town and village, but the LDC might want to participate or help with them. State budget bills are being printed this week. The local government bill was today. There's $100 million for pro housing to support infrastructure for new housing developments for water, sewer, roads. The EPF fund, which funds like parks, trails. There's another 25 million on top of what was last year. So there's going to be $425 million available statewide for EPF fund. And then the volunteer fire department, B fires, they're going to do a second year of it. So there's $25 million for the fire department. They can either do equipment or building upgrades. There's 2 different categories.
And Scott, how do you get that information? Are you on like some kind of email list?
That came to me from DICOM for the executive committee members. So like we get a weekly update during the budget session.
Okay, so it's not something that you can subscribe to.
Jerry
We
could
can
probably
get it
get
through
it.
NICOM.
I was gonna say Jerry could probably get it, yeah.
Might make sense if he
Yeah.
can do that and we could get that forwarded to
Yeah.
us, that would be helpful.
And the town could get it through Association of Towns? Do they do the same thing?
Don't know, I've never seen it. I'm sure they do. I just, the other things are the same, like the aim was the same. They did put another $50 million in CHIPS funding, so you probably get a little more money for your CHIPS road paving. And there's $500 million for water and sewer infrastructure projects.
Is that something you can forward to us? Or you can't?
I think we can get it from NICOM's site, but if you can forward
I
it,
can
that'd be
forward
great.
I have no problem for it.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's it, unless somebody's got anything else. Can I have
Make
a
motion to adjourn?
thank you, Pam, and may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jim, I think we heard Jim, all in favor, bye, see you guys in June.
Gotta find out how the game went, so.